there's been an intensity of deep listening. This is a phrase that I've heard many times in listening to various spiritual talks. And it's likely been mentioned in the book that has been read earlier in earlier episodes by Thich Nhat Hanh. And most recently I watched a video by Tara Brach called Deep Listening. There are 2 parts to it. Perhaps I'll post part 1 of the video on my Patreon and reflect upon some of the things I absorbed from watching. On a very basic level, deep listening it can begin with yourself. It's often clearer when you may be going through a difficult time. That's often when it comes up for me a lot more intensely. With intense suffering or pain. With awareness, there can be deep listening, where you are fully present with the pain. You're not belittling it, you're not negating it, you're not distracting yourself from it. You're becoming familiar with it. And one of the natural qualities of deep listening is that the pain is not personal. There's no room for it to be personal. The deep listening fully embodies being aware, observing, even being curious. Deep listening can guide you in what is needed in that time. Whether it means taking action, whether it means surrendering. Most of all, there's deeper listening when in the company of others. Some of the things Tara mentioned was listening to understand. I have the habit of listening to give my point of view, waiting for that sliver of silence where I can quickly assert my opinion, my view. There's almost a waiting. You've got what you want to say, it's ready to go, it's raring to go. And you're waiting. Sometimes waiting's not enough, you'll just interrupt the person speaking. Almost the urge becomes that powerful. I used to have the habit of interrupting many people, and this is lessened with awareness of the individual speaking and me listening. So listening to understand, not readying a reply. And this may take some time. Any habit that's deeply ingrained, that's been there for many years, can often take some practice or some growth in your awareness. So when you are conversating with another, there's listening, and then there's a response. Instead of listening and reacting, being unaware, allowing the mind to dictate, to of course you'll catch yourself interrupting, catch yourself readying a very clever answer. Waiting to impress the other person with some fact or knowledge or understanding. And this can be seen as well. At times it may be a bit uncomfortable or unpleasant. The thing that you would like to say is this is exactly what they need to hear. But they won't stop talking enough for me to tell them what this will fix their problem if I was only to say this. This can become even a meditation when listening. You can use your body as the anchor, rest your awareness in the body, and just allow what is being said to be heard in that space. I've noticed the spaciousness in the background of the conversation, where before the mind would be fully engaged and there would be no space, no silence, no stillness. The mind will be analysing what is said and computing an answer. I believe it was Eckhart that said it may be a bit strange, or it may have been Tara Brach, but because there may be a bit of a gap before responding, so it may almost take getting used to respond in this way. And sometimes you may not have a response. The person who have just finished speaking may be waiting, perhaps expecting something to be said that they want to be said, that they want to receive from you, but from this space, that sometimes, often, there isn't anything to be said. There is just a feeling of remaining quiet and still, not ignoring or dismissing, but just an acknowledgement of what has been said, and sometimes people want you to agree with them. They're waiting for your agreement. And the mind loves to be important. So by perhaps agreeing with somebody, you're aligning with them. You're getting praise for that. Yes, I agree with you. This should not have happened. And the mind feeds off of that. It's almost kind of an egoic praise, an egoic, yes, I am a good friend, and it can add that to its identity. And you may completely disagree with what they said, but the identity, that's more important. So again, I'll add the video to the Patreon page, and add some reflective notes. It's nice to revisit this video, deep listening. So in my life, where possible, there's been an urge for this deep listening, for almost remaining quiet, of acknowledging that often my opinions and my words, there isn't a tremendous value to them in some ways, especially when it's coming from the mind. And with the practice of deep listening, often there's not a lot that needs to be said. Perhaps the quality of your awareness, the presence you're giving that person, it may even change the conversation. Somebody could be talking about a story or something happened to them, going into detail about this drama and this happened. Then they may pick up on your awareness there. You may not, they may be perhaps subconsciously aware that you're not feeding their story, and it may just fizzle out. And often, with two people in their minds, they're constantly feeding each other's almost egoic energy. One telling a story about a difficult day, and it all may be very true. The day was extremely difficult, but with the personalization of it and the added complaining and story in that respect, where they're almost adding to their own suffering, and then there's another person fueling that fire, upholding their whatever it is. They're talking about the unfairness of something, which again may be fine on its own. It's very true. There are circumstances that There may be a feeling towards something that's happened, but there's no adding to it. There's no personal story adding to that. Of course, Tara Brach goes into detail, many examples, and so if that's something that resonates with you, deep listening, I suggest that as a video to watch, and by all means you can comment on the feedback for that. So we are on chapter 3, I believe, or are we on chapter 2? Something to check. Yeah, so chapter 3. And we are on the passage titled Truth, Relative or Absolute. Beyond the realm of simple and verifiable facts, the certainty that I am right and you are wrong is a dangerous thing in personal relationships, as well as in interactions between nations, tribes, religions, and so on. But if the belief I am right, you are wrong, is one of the ways in which the ego strengthens itself, if making yourself right and others wrong is a mental dysfunction that perpetuates separation and conflict between human beings, does that mean there is no such thing as right or wrong behavior, action, or belief? And wouldn't that be the moral relativism and some contemporary Christian teachings see as the great evil of our times? The history of Christianity is, of course, a prime example of how the belief that you are in sole possession of the truth, that is to say, right, can corrupt your actions and behavior to the point of insanity. For centuries, torturing and burning people alive if their opinion diverged, even in the slightest, from church doctrine or narrow interpretations of scripture, the truth was considered right because the victims were wrong. They were so wrong that they needed to be killed. The truth was considered more important than human life. And what was the truth? A story you had to believe in, which means a bundle of thoughts. The 1 million people that mad dictator Pol Pot of Cambodia ordered killed included everybody who wore glasses. Why? To him, the Marxist interpretation of history was the absolute truth, and according to his version of it, those who wore glasses belonged to the educated class. The Bourgeoisie, I'm pronouncing that right, the exploiters of the peasants. They needed to be eliminated to make room for a new social order. His truth also was a bundle of thoughts. The Catholic and other churches are actually correct when they identify relativism, the belief that there is no absolute truth to guide human behavior, as one of the evils of our times. But you won't find absolute truth if you look for it where it cannot be found, in doctrines, ideologies, sets of rules or stories. What do all of these have in common? They are made up of thought. Thought can at best point to the truth, but it never is the truth. That's why Buddhists say the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. All religions are equally false and equally true, depending on how you use them. You can use them in the service of the ego, or you can use them in the service of the truth. If you believe only your religion is the truth, you are using it in the service of the ego. Used in such a way, religion becomes ideology and creates an illusory sense of superiority as well as division and conflict between people. In the service of the truth, religious teachings represent signposts or maps left behind by awakened humans to assist you in spiritual awakening, that is to say, in becoming free of identification with form. There is only one absolute truth, and all other truths emanate from it. When you find that truth, your actions will be in alignment with it. Human action can reflect the truth, or it can reflect illusion. Can the truth be put into words? Yes, but the words are, of course, not it. They only point to it. The truth is inseparable from who you are. Yes, you are the truth. If you look for it elsewhere, you will be deceived every time. The very being that you are is truth. Jesus tried to convey that when he said, "I am the way and the truth and the life." These words uttered by Jesus are one of the most powerful and direct pointers to the truth, if understood correctly. If misinterpreted, however, they become a great obstacle. Jesus speaks of the innermost I am, the essence, identity of every man and woman, every life form, in fact. He speaks of the life that you are. Some Christian mystics have called it the Christ within. Buddhists call it your Buddha nature. For Hindus it is Atman, the indwelling God. When you are in touch with that dimension within yourself, and being in touch with it is your natural state, not some miraculous achievement, all your actions and relationships will reflect the oneness with all life that you sense deep within. This is love. laws, commandments, rules, and regulations are necessary for those who are cut off from who they are, the truth within. They prevent the worst excesses of the ego, and often they don't even do that. Love and do what you will, said Saint Augustine. Words cannot get much closer to the truth than that. I think it will be a good time to end the reading here, as the next passage talks about how the ego is not personal, and I feel it may be best to begin that on a separate episode and dwell on the passage we've just read, which again is titled Truth, Relative or Absolute. And the essence of this is that the truth cannot be found in beliefs or doctrines or rules set out. That the truth is within you, or the truth is who you are. And Eckhart says, if you look for it elsewhere, you will be deceived every time. Just saying that truth can only be found in the beingness, in the aliveness of life. That in some ways truth isn't something that can be pointed at. You can point at the truth, but the pointing is not the truth. The truth in itself is the beingness, is that connection with Source. It's a different way of looking at truth, that it's an ongoing aliveness there. It's not it's not spoken in words. That the words themselves are not true, but they can describe truth. They can point to the truth. And it says here, when you are in touch with that dimension of truth. And Eckhart says, and being in touch with your natural state is not some miraculous achievement. As he says before that, it is who you are. And when you put achievement next to that, it doesn't correlate to, you can't achieve in what you already are. But when you are in this dimension, when you are in this beingness, all your actions and relationships will reflect the oneness with all life that you sense deep within. And finally it said after that this is love. I'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I wish you well in this present moment, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Take care.